everyone, I'm Jess and welcome back to my channel, Learn Excel on Mac with Jess. To shift things a bit from my previous tutorials on pivot tables and data summaries, today I want to address a question that I get asked often, which is when is a good time for someone to use an if function, like if x then y, and when is a good time for someone to use a lookup function, like VLOOKUP, index match, or my personal favorite, XLOOKUP. If this is something you've always wondered about, you are in the right place. So let's dive into it and stay tuned till the end to hear about which next tutorial I'm already working on. With that, let's get started. And here is the data that we'll be using today. You are a people manager and you have here a list of your teammates worldwide. And right now is that dreaded time of the year of what some companies call a calibration, which is a time where managers sit with each other and compare the performance of their employees versus the rest of the peers. They give a rating, and that rating will drive the amount of raise or even promotion those employees will get. So let's say after a long deliberation, you've come up with these ratings here in column C. 1 being the lowest performer, 5 are your superstars, and 2, 3, and 4 are the ones in between. So now that you have the ratings, your next step is to figure out which of these employees should be included in a potential further discussion for promotion. And let's say that your HR guidance is that anyone with a 3 or above, that means 3, 4, and 5, should be included. So question for you then is, how would you create a formula to indicate that? Would you use an if function or would you use a lookup? The answer to that is that technically you could do both. However, in this case, the simpler way would be to use an if function. So let's see how that works. We're gonna put a equal sign, type in if, tab to open the parentheses. Logical test will be this rating. So if C7 is bigger than or equal to 3, we'll say yes. Otherwise, no. Hit enter and drag the formula down. And there is your if formula. So let's take a closer look of what we just did. Do you remember earlier I had said that the HR guidance shows anyone with a 3, 4, or 5 should be included. That means 3 has to say yes. And that is why I had put an equal sign here in the formula. If let's say suddenly the HR guidance changes and says that it's actually anyone above a 3, so only 4 and 5, you can easily delete the equal signs, hit enter, and we'll see what happens to Jane here, who is a 3. Suddenly, she is a no for potential promo discussion. And then the other thing I want to point out is that I had put yes and no, but you can actually put any text that you want. You can put hooray, you can put anything really. Just remember to put a quotation mark, the double quotation mark, before and after the text so that the formula does not give you an error. So that's an if formula, and my general rule of thumb is that if it's simple rule that has to follow, such as if this one rule is met, then X, otherwise Y, then you should use an if formula. But if it's more complicated than that, if things are always changing or you have a longer list of things to look up, well, hey, this is what's coming up next. So let's first clarify what is a lookup and why are there so many different ones out there that you could use, like VLOOKUP, index match, or XLOOKUP. So first, a lookup is when you have a series of data points and you are trying to convert it to a different characteristic that it has. So in our previous example of numerical ratings from 1 to 5, we were able to use an if function because you can kind of tell Excel a number, and then Excel will bucket the ratings based on whether the ratings are higher or lower than that number. But here for Company 2, you don't have numerical ratings. Company 2 uses text such as S for successful, IR for improvement required, all the way to O, outstanding. So you can't just use an if function and have Excel sort high to low. So in this case, we actually would have to use a lookup function. And for a lookup function, we would need a lookup table to help us translate the ratings into a promo eligibility. So this is something that, again, your HR partner may give you to figure out which ratings should qualify for further discussion for promotion. So then your next natural question may be, well, which lookup function should I use? There are so many out there. Personally, for me, I find that XLOOKUP is far more superior and simpler to use than VLOOKUP or index match. XLOOKUP was only released 2 or 3 years ago, so not so many people are familiar with it because they may have been so used to using VLOOKUP or index match for such a long time. However, I promise you, after this, you're gonna find that XLOOKUP is easier to use, so you're never going back. So back to our exercise today, we're gonna use XLOOKUP to translate these performance evaluation into a yes or no for promo potential. Let's do that together. We're gonna type =, XLOOKUP. For the lookup value, we're gonna type here the as successful, comma, and then for a lookup array and return array that's coming up that the formula needs, we're actually gonna jump into that lookup table that we have. So the lookup array means where can they find that rating, which is in this rating column. And I like to lock my cells, which is Command T for shortcut, comma, and the return array is the promo eligibility. So that means find the rating in cell F7 that we had before, go to column B in the lookup table to find that, and then return what is in column C next to it. Hit enter. Let's drag the formula down. And there you have your XLOOKUP. So I hope that gave clarification as to when is a good time to use an if function and when is a good time to use an XLOOKUP. So if for very, very simple things, and XLOOKUP if you have a longer list of things to convert. And just so you know, what I just showed you with XLOOKUP is barely scratching the surface. So the next video that I'm already working on is to show you XLOOKUP in its entirety so you can see all the cool things that it can do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you soon.